Hello, I'm Richard Seltzer. I'd like to share with you one of my favorite stories, which I wrote 50 years ago. A good friend of mine was teaching an elementary school class in Brockton, Massachusetts. She told me so much about the kids in her class that I felt that I knew them, and I started writing stories for her to read to them. This is the first such story. The first line popped into my head: once upon a space there was a time, and the rest just flowed from that like magic. I had no idea how it would end when I started, and it was finished in about half an hour. I've made a few minor changes since then, but the outcome felt inevitable. I love it. I hope you do too. Now and then. Once upon a space, there was a time, a cute little time. Her name was Now. Her father was yesterday, her mother was tomorrow, and they loved her very much, but there was nobody around to play with. Her big brother today was 24 hours tall, so big she could hardly see his face, and it was very hard for him to bend way down and play with little Now. There were many, many times, good times and bad times, long times and short times, but none of them was anywhere near as little as Now. When her mommy saw how lonely she was, she told her, "We aren't the only times. We're a special class of times, a leisure class. There are many other times who have to work for a living, and maybe among them you can find some time just your size to play with." So Now flew, for all time flies, to the land of working time. There was a time to be born and a time to die, a time for sowing and a time for reaping. There were big, big times like a time for war and a time for sorrow, but there were little times too, times almost as little as now, times like a time for peace and a time for joy. So she asked a time for joy if he'd like to play. But he said, "Don't bother me. I'm busy. I got no space to play in. All I do is have joy, joy, joy. Everywhere, nothing but joy. It's a drag, of course, and I'd love to play with you if I could, but a job's a job. Why don't you try a time to play? He should be able to help you." But a time to play said, "You want to play? You've got to be kidding. I'd give you this job, glad to get rid of it, but the labor market's tight these days, and a time's got to eat, so I'm sorry, but I can't help you. But I want a time to play with. Just sometime, anytime. Don't any times play together? Surely you must know." Most times around here used to being by themselves. After all, we got work to do. We're respectable. Only those good-for-nothing lazy. Oh, there are times to play around. Mommy said that there'd be times like that. Yes, I might have figured as much. Tomorrow's not so far from being one herself. One what? An indefinite. No reflection on your mother personally now. She raised herself up from all that. She married a time of the leisure class. She's respectable now. But what she came from, don't get me wrong now. What I'm saying's for your own good. You've got it in your blood, and maybe your mother hasn't taught you. You see now, tomorrow's parents are forever and ever two of the laziest, most indefinite times in the universe. They play all right. All they do is play, play, play. But they have no fixed place in society, like yesterday and 9 o'clock, and they don't do a bit of work. Why, they're the very lowest class of time. But don't tell your mother I said this. Ever's brother never is so low he isn't a time at all. He's an enemy of society, what he is. Now didn't wait to hear the rest. She wanted to see her grandparents, who she hadn't heard of before, and to meet these merry times, the free and easy, happy-go-lucky times of the lowest class. And she liked forever and ever. They were so much fun to talk to, but they were so big. She really couldn't tell just how big they were, but together they just seemed to have no end at all. And she grew very, very unhappy, because even here, she couldn't find anyone to play with. But then, yes then, she saw him and he saw her, and now and then and now, played and played and played. Now and then, the greatest playmates of all time. If you enjoyed this story, please let me know in comments, and I'll do more of the same. You can find my books at Amazon. My name again is Richard Seltzer, as in Alka-Seltzer. My most recent books are Parallel Lives, Beyond the Fourth Door, and Nevermind. They can be read in any order. They're independent stories with overlapping theme and styles. Each presents a different view of reality, a different way of trying to make sense of the mysteries of life.